Hey everyone, welcome to a special episode of the Album Anniversary Podcast. I'm AJ Simmons, guest hosting today for Caleb. Some of you might recognize me. I've guest hosted and been a guest before, but for those that don't, I'm a political scientist and host of Crashing the Political Party, a show where we interview third party and independent politicians and dig into the stories that always don't get their due in the press. I'm also an author with my new book Space and Time, which is out now. Now, this is a special episode not because I'm hosting it, but because we're celebrating the anniversary of not one, not two, but three albums in one episode. And all three albums share two things in common. They're Christmas albums, and they were made by my guests this week. I am joined by the author that recently released In the Morning You Hear My Voice, podcaster, producer, pastor, and important for today's conversation, artist, Ronnie Martin. Ronnie, thanks so much for joining me today.
Hey, it's great to be here.
All right, so let's start with across being an author, producer, podcaster, music artist, pastor, and everything. When do you sleep?
Man. I think I get asked that question, and I think I try to get in a good 6 hours every night. That's the best I can answer that. So when everything's going good, I get that time in. But it's an amazing thing when you're an empty nester and you don't have the constraints of time that you may have had all those years when you were, raising kids and you had all these things sort of pulling at you. I have other things pulling at me now, but they give me a lot more flexibility to do all the artistic things I do. So
So, also another hard-hitting question I have for you is Michael Bublé aware that you two are competing to release the most Christmas music while like you're still alive? Like, is he aware you guys are in a race together?
as far as I know, he's only put out one record. Does he have more than that? Because I love that record. I wish he would put out more
He's just known for, I guess, like touring, I guess, and producing like live
uh,
versions of stuff and whatnot. But
Yeah, no, that's probably true. Yeah, no, he that Christmas album he put out, well, it's probably about 10 years ago, is I think it's a bona fide classic.
yeah, he gets defrosted every year around, late October, beginning of November to come out and start doing Christmas music. And here you are releasing. So, see, I guess it's not even a competition, is what you're saying. You're already winning the race with him.
No, no, I didn't mean that, but it's I probably wish I had the platform that Michael has so I could do CBS specials because
There you go.
that'd be a lot of fun.
There you go. All right. So let's honor the name of this podcast and actually talk about the albums we're celebrating today. Starting with the oldest anniversary we're celebrating today, your album Bells Merrily, which just turned or is turning three here shortly. Before that release, it'd been nearly a decade since you'd put out new music. And then in 2022, you dropped From the Womb of the Morning, The Dew of Your Youth Will Be Yours, and then Bells Merrily. What was it like to get those creative juices going again after taking a bit of a break to focus on some of your other mini activities that we've talked about?
Yeah, gosh, it kind of all came flooding back. I had to redo my studio and I had to sort of reconstruct it and reorganize it in a way that made sense for what I wanted to do now. And so I did that, and that was kind of the inspiration for jumping in. And I've just always been a songwriter, so I'm constantly writing, and it just all kind of came flooding back. And we had gotten a new piano in the house, and so I would just sit there by the hour and all the songs and the melodies it was all just coming. And I have this little tape recorder that I just keep on the piano that I record all these things into as they come. And before I knew it, I just had all this material and I felt really inspired to get out there and just start recording. And so whatever started, I don't know when that was, 4 or 5 years ago, it's just continued, and it doesn't look like it's stopping anytime soon.
No, I don't think so. You released two albums in 2022, another album in 2023, a single in 2024, and two albums again in 2025. So it doesn't seem like it's going to stop anytime soon. Was there a moment though when you were, playing the piano at home and stuff like that, they're like, okay, I'm ready to start releasing music again? Like, do you remember that moment when you actively were like, yeah, game on?
Yeah, I was on a sabbatical on the central coast of California in 2018. So this goes back really far. And I just it wasn't the right time. And again, this was pre me thinking about kind of rebuilding the studio.
Hmm.
And but my mind was always in it, and I'd done some sort of like lesser known things in the years kind of leading up to that, really small projects. And so since I was in California and we were finishing up our sabbatical and we were heading south, Jeff and I had sort of a time that we were going to meet together and just kind of catch up. And so we did that, and I said, "Hey, do you have any interest in kind of, moving forward with any of these projects I got in my head?" And he said, I do actually. And he just seemed excited about kind of, jumping on board and supporting and, doing all the stuff that's necessary. That goes into, just the whole recording process and releasing process. So that kind of gave me the inspiration after that. And it was still a couple of years before I had to rebuild the studio and then kind of get back into the flow of it. It just took a minute.
Hmm.
And because there was just a lot of things that happened in those intervening years. And
Hmm.
I don't know, it just, it all led up to that moment where it all just sort of came back. And it came back kind of in full force and maybe even
Hmm.
greater force than it had been for, a long time. And I think it had been building up.
Hmm.
If you're a writer, you write.
Yep.
Writers write, and so it just never leaves you. It's intrinsic. It's kind of part and parcel of who you are, and that's what happened. And I've just been doing it ever since. And I don't know. It's just been a wealth of material, and I don't know how to explain it other than it keeps coming, and VBM keeps putting it out. So.
So on Bell's Merrily, like go back to that period of working on that and writing that. How did you know your second release under your own name was gonna be a Christmas album?
Well, I didn't necessarily. It was sort of a novelty idea because I'd never the Christmas things I'd put out under Joy Electric were they were I'd always wished I had another stab at it. And I was really starting to write kind of my original Christmas tunes. I was thinking back to the era of the 40s, 50s, and 60s when these songs have become such classics, but there was a time when those were brand new songs, and they were introduced to people, and they were hitting the radio waves, and you'd have Mel Torme singing "Chestnuts Roasting on an Open Fire." And so I thought, well, what would it look? I got all these songs that kind of fit into that are kind of within that realm, those kind of key changes and melodies.
Hmm.
And so Bells Merrily came about pretty quickly after From the Womb of the Morning. And so I just again approached the label and said, "Hey, what would you think about a Christmas release?" And they were like, "Yeah, that sounds great. Let's do it." I mean, little did they know that I would be following it up with, at this time, two more.
Yeah.
So we're already talking about a fourth. Um, so the inspiration for those songs they come really quickly for me,
Hmm.
and I usually write the entirety of those albums within about a 3 to 4 week period.
Hmm.
They all just kind of come at once, and that's how it happened, and it's just been that way ever since.
When you listen back to Bell's Merrily now, 3 years later, what stands out the most, and has your perspective on the album kind of changed with time?
Yeah, I did the album pretty quick because I did Womb of the Morning pretty quick, and then I did this pretty quick, and I was kind of on that particular. I had that particular mindset at the time, which was I don't want to labor over the records like I used to,
Hmm.
which I completely then blew out of the water with Consume Like a Moth because I labored over that for a long time. And it sounds very labored over, in my opinion, when you listen to it. But nevertheless, Bells Merrily, yeah, it happened really quick. I didn't want to do any drums on it, so it's a bunch of synths, no
Hmm.
drums.
Hmm.
And I really do like a couple of the songs on it a lot. I also took a couple songs I had recorded years earlier and kind of redid those a little bit.
Hmm.
But I like it. It lacks a little polish for me, and but I like some of the rawness of it. And I think a couple of the songs on it, most I think Lost Christmas Night, and I can't. I'm so bad. I'm old now. It's hard for me to remember the titles. There's too many titles. But I do love Lost Christmas Night and December Frost in particular. I really like those songs. They came together super fast, and I tend to like things that come together fast. And that's what I remember about that. And I like that there's no drums on the record too, so I like that feature.
'Cause that's different for you, right? I mean, short of the acoustic album you released, right? That a lack of drums is new or a novel, I guess, for a
Yeah,
Ronnie Martin record.
yeah. I'm I labor over drums, and so to do something without drums means I'm probably cutting away like half the time it takes to record a record. Especially synthesized drums, they take
Hmm.
so long, and for me at least. And so yeah, to do it without drums was it kind of shortened the process a little bit, but it's fun. It's fun for me. And then when you listen to a lot of old Christmas tunes, a lot of them don't have drums.
No,
You
they usually
know,
just have like the piano or whatever the lead instrument is, and that's it.
Yeah, exactly. A piano or like an orchestra
Yep.
or a small quartet or something like that. So I'm looking to do that again, actually. I didn't do it on this new record at
Hmm.
all, but I'm looking to kind of maybe do a variety of drums, no drums. We'll see.
Interesting. So next up is Holiday Fable, which you released in 2023, and it's officially heading towards the terrible twos. Looking back, what do you love most about this album?
Well, after Bells Merrily, the album has a lot of energy to me, especially the title track, the way it kind of comes in. It's fast and it's very joyous. And Bells Merrily, even, despite the title, it's kind of a down record, in some ways. The title track is kind of jubilant, but the rest of
Hmm.
it's kind of down. And Holiday Fable it just there was a joy to it, there was a lightness to it. So I really like the title track for that. It really comes in, with a lot of energy, and I like Holly on the Bough was Holly on the Bough musically was something that I was kind of working, it was it was a template for what I wanted a little bit of Consume Like a Moth to sound like. So again, nobody knows how all these things are working out, as you're figuring
Right.
them out. And so that kind of led to that a little bit. And then I loved songs like Alpine Lodge, which just sounded like an old song that maybe one of the old crooners would have done in the 60s.
Hmm.
Singing about a Christmas lodge that the family stays at. And
Hmm.
so I do like that record a lot. I think it's probably my favorite of the three, to be honest with you.
Oh, interesting. Fun fact about this, and I think you know at least part of this, is that one of my short stories, my story collection, is named after All Christmas Time Sings, and then
Oh wow. Okay.
yeah, and my new one, Space and Time, has Alpine Lodge as a title, a
Oh,
chapter title.
well, I need to get that. Okay.
So yeah, both those came off of this album. Um, so as a writer talking about a bit about that, I often find that there's at least like one chapter that fights me the whole way through writing. Were there any songs like that on Holiday Fable that, or any of the Christmas records really, that you had to wrestle with creatively, technically to get right, or did that just all Holiday Fables come together real easy, naturally, no big deal?
Yeah, for the most part, I've gotten better at if something is giving me a lot of problems, I usually let it go now, and I either save it for another time or maybe it just wasn't strong enough because I feel like most of the time things that are strong come together really intuitively. And if I'm really, really, like, I have to really love something a lot to wrestle through it to the point where it's causing me so much grief and it would be better just to let it go. But I do remember one song in particular that, having said that, there was a song on Fable called First Snow of the Winter, and it's kind of a plodding song, and it took me forever to. I really loved the song and the chorus, but it was it just gave me a lot of grief trying to get it to where I wanted to get it, and then of course it never quite got there, and I kind of wish I would have saved it, but I didn't, and I kind of pushed through, and there you have it. Most people wouldn't know that when they're listening to it, but it was just it became something that when I wrote it, there was a joy to it, and then by the time I finished it, it had turned into much less of a joy. So, it was one of those things.
So, talking about Holiday Fable, you talked about the title track. How do you settle on album titles, right? Like all three of your Christmas albums, I think I'm getting this correct, have a title track. with Holiday Fable being kind of unique that it's the opening track, not only the title track. Is that the order like track titles first, and then you kind of pick, hey, this is the one I want the album to be? Or do you have like in your mind, "Ah, I'm gonna name this album Holiday Fable and I want to have a title track called Holiday Fable." What's that process look like for you?
Yeah, titles are really big for me. I love song titles and album titles. I'm always looking to do something a little, kind of abstract and maybe not as much with the Christmas titles, but something that kind of sticks out a little bit. And so yeah, I kind of need a title first. And so I usually get an album. The album title is what motivates me to begin recording and writing the record itself. And so yeah, Holiday Fable was just I love those old Christmas albums that always had the word holiday in them. I
Hmm.
love that word. And then Fable kind of was just kind of the magic behind the holidays. I'm kind of the fiction versus the reality of what is represented to me at least around Christmas time, which is a lot of it's not very real, and so there's this magical quality to it. But then that's also it's very real, right? Because it creates this sort of mood and environment and nostalgia. So Holiday Fable was kind of combining all of those things into one. And but yeah, the title, yeah, I've been going with these two word titles with the
Yeah,
Christmas
I was gonna
album.
point that out that they're all two-word titles.
Yeah, they're all two word titles, and so I don't know. I'm a title guy. I'm always writing down titles and new titles
I do the same
and
with stories and books. And it's funny because
yeah,
your
yeah,
Christmas albums are two titles, and then your non-Christmas albums are a paragraph at times.
they're long. Yeah, so I'm trying. That's how I blend it out.
There you go.
Yeah.
So this is the only album under the Ronnie Martin name that has a dark cover. Why is that compared to the other albums that all have kind of like the tan light color on?
Yeah, gosh, I was I you know how did it happen? I saw some wrapping paper that was this it was black Christmas wrapping paper.
Okay.
And I thought, gosh, that's so unusual.
Mm-hmm.
Black Christmas wrapping paper. So I took a picture of it and I sent it to Nathan Schrader, the guy that's been doing all my sleeves now for so many years. And I said, hey,
Mm-hmm.
I go, Holiday Fable, it sounds so bright and joyous. I go, but what if we did like this black kind of background? I go, it just would really be striking for a Christmas album. And he liked that. So he put it together. And yeah, I thought it turned out really neat.
Yeah, no, it is super neat and unique, like you said. That is different. All right, so now we've reached the newest album, Evergreen Melody. Like your others, it's out through Velvet Blue Music, and when people are listening to this, it's going to be the happy 1 week anniversary to this one. For listeners that haven't had a chance to hear it yet, how would you describe, the album in just a few words? What kind of mood or world were you trying to build besides, obviously Christmas?
Yeah, it's a very like bright, shiny, upbeat pop record. And so I was really fatigued after I recorded Consume Like a Moth. Like I said, it was overly labored over. And I wanted to do something that was quick and intuitive. I had the songs,
Hmm.
but did not want to labor over them. So the thought was just do them very intuitively. Let them all kind of sound the same,
Hmm.
So when you put it on, it's something that will be, it's not a long record, but it'll really just, there'll be like an energy that carries all the way through it. So let it be very simple. Let there be an energy there. Let there be a sort of a shiny kind of sheen to it. And let it be something that maybe more than anything I've done so far really reminds people of some of the earlier Joy Electric things. And so that was probably everything in my mind as I was doing it.
So that's an observation I've had having listened to the album. I was like, this sounds like a Joy Electric album, which is pretty cool. How's it feel to be releasing new music, and does it feel any different than it used to these days?
Yeah, I think it's just more it's more satisfying, I think now. All those years ago when it was just we were touring so much and we were on a bigger label and there was just the pressure that we experienced, all the time from,
Hmm.
being a part of something much bigger than we were and with, sales and all those types of things. So I think a lot of the enjoyment, and we did enjoy it, but a lot of the enjoyment, got, a little bit kind of pressed out of it at times. And I think now it's just to be able to be in a situation where I can write, I can record, and then there's just an outlet for it. And yet there's none of those pressures that we used to have makes it so much, it's just really fun. So I'm
Hmm.
really, really enjoying it. I do miss playing though. I love to play. It's
Hmm.
just not really in the cards for what we do now, what I do now. But so I do miss that aspect of it quite a bit because I love being in front of people and I love performing in some ways. But that part of it, that part of the puzzle just isn't realistic right now. So right now it's just, yeah, writing and recording.
You are playing a Christmas show though, correct? Coming up on, I think, December 6th. Do I have that right?
Yeah, that's right. And it's not really a show. It's more of a it's kind of more of like a little holiday party.
Okay.
So celebrate the release of the book and the
Hmm.
album. I'm gonna do an acoustic set.
Hmm.
So I'll be playing some songs just acoustically and but yeah, I would hesitate to call it a show
Okay. Sure.
because it'll probably just be some Christmas tunes
Okay.
and nothing not too much, no beats and electronics or anything like that. So yeah.
Gotcha. So getting back to Evergreen Melody, what do you see as the biggest influences on the record, and how does that, maybe differ from the first two albums? You're talking about how it sounds bit more like a Joy Electric album. What were some of the influences on it?
Well, I wanted, it was a sense of like how simple and minimal can I make it after just the lack of simple, minimal qualities that Consume Like a Moth had.
Hmm.
It just was not that kind of a record.
Hmm.
And I wanted to do something that felt lyrically, it's very nostalgic. There's even
Hmm.
a song called Christmas Nostalgia on it.
Hmm. Yes.
So lyrically, and again, all my lyrics have always had a nod to the past, but this
Hmm.
one, I think, more than any other record, is kind of singing about kind of what makes one of the things that makes Christmas, I think, so special and so memorable is that it always conjures up memories from the past. And so that's really kind of the driving theme behind the record more than anything. But, that's where the word evergreen comes in. It's something that if you write these very memorable, almost kind of classic tunes, but then you have lyrics that kind of, have a very, just a heavy nod to the past. Maybe it's something that can endure into the future. So.
Hmm. Kind of going off of that, as you mentioned, like you kind of blend nostalgia with something modern and experimental in a lot of your music. Your Christmas music almost feels more like a Christmas story if the soundtrack was done by like Giorgio Moroder at times. When you sit down to make a Christmas record, how do you try to balance those two parts of your music?
I mean, I just don't think there is, there's no balance to it. It's funny you say Giorgio Moroder because that would be musically, that would be a real influence on Evergreen Melody.
Hmm.
You can hear that,
Yes, yeah.
just with the bass lines and the beats. And, Giorgio Moroder was, I mean, he's definitely not one of my, I would say not one of my greatest influences, but, he's definitely in there somewhere. And just in terms of how simple and driving, his backing tracks were. And so I think it's just, yeah, there's something about the music that was made at that time where it was supposed to signify what the music of the future was going to sound like.
Hmm.
So I've just always been fascinated by that era. That time period is still my time period.
Right.
And even though I didn't listen to it, I mean, I was really young at that time. So it passed me by in the moment, but much later, I was able to go back to it. And I don't know what it is. There's just something about that music made from that era that has just continued to capture me. I never get tired of it. And so, yeah, so you're singing about all these nostalgic things and you got all these synthesizer, sounds that kind of they almost create sort of like a disconnect with it. And I like that it's hard to it makes it hard to categorize. And I like that. I like music that's a little harder to categorize in some ways. So
So something that we've talked about briefly is your prior to today, I should say, often recording Christmas music when it's not Christmas season. So what's that process look like to try and get in the Christmas spirit in the middle of like July? I don't know. Or is there just like a magic Christmas spirit switch that you have that you're like, and now I'm Ronnie Christmas.
some people would tell you I'm always Ronnie Christmas, Ronnie Kringle. Um, it's a good question, actually. I think I don't necessarily have to be in the Christmas spirit. I'm always anticipating Christmas at any time of the year. So it's always something that I'm looking forward to. It's always in the future. I'm always thinking, well, when we kind of cross that threshold from to September, we can kind of start looking forward to it. Everything's kind of in motion. You can see it now. So yeah, but it is an interesting thing recording. I do try to record these records at least in a season that's approaching Christmas if it's not Christmas. And so this record was recorded last Evergreen Melody I was recording, well, it was towards the end of last summer. So I was wrapping it up going into the fall. I was wrapping up the recording. We finished it pretty early.
Hmm.
And so which is why we had the single to release and all of that.
Hmm.
So I don't know. Yeah, yeah, I would say July is not the ideal time for me. March is not the ideal time, but at the same time, it's like, well, these are just songs and they're melodies and you have to I think I let that carry it. That has to be kind of the thing that carries it other than the season I'm in, because inevitably, ideally I would be recording the next one right now, and I'm not. I'm actually working on the follow-up to Consume Like a Moth right now. So yeah, we'll see. We'll figure that out when it comes. So.
Something you talked about earlier, actually, on Consume Like a Moth is that you labored over it and kind of kept working at it. How did you know when Evergreen Melody was done? Like, how do you know when a project is done and it's ready to go out into the world? Because I sort of, for me, I feel like I don't know if it's done. I'm done with it. I don't know if it's a done project, but I'm curious about that for you. Like, how do you get to signify? Is it just like you've talked with Cloud? Cloud says, "Hey, this is coming out this day, so you better be done with it." Or what's your process like?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think you just kind of said it. I think you get to a place where you're done with it. And you get to a place where like, I cannot listen to this song one more time.
Yeah.
No, but it's a great question. What I've done over the years and what I've gotten better at doing, even just with writing, not just
Hmm.
songwriting, but writing, is I let it go even a little earlier than I think it should be, than I think I should let it go.
Hmm.
That's always helped me. So I get to this place where I feel like I'm at sort of a peak creative flow with it. And that's sort of a feeling that's hard to articulate other than I have this feeling where I feel good about it. Yes, I could add more to it. I also could take some things away.
Hmm.
So I'll usually finish by maybe taking a couple things away, but as I'm feeling my most joy with it is when I usually decide to let it go. And again, I usually like to leave something on the table with it too. I usually like to leave an idea or two kind of like on the shelf with it that said, "Oh, I could have added that extra part." Or, "Oh, I forgot to do a fill right there. It just, how did I forget that?" But I kind of like that. There's a song called "Keep Around the Hearth." It's
Hmm.
track number two
Yeah.
on the record. And it's probably in a sense, the most upbeat song on the record, in some ways, just the way the production came out and the parts. But there's something at the end where the song just sort of floats out into nothing and it ends. And that was something that I meant to go back to for weeks and weeks. And then when I sent the record to be mixed, I had just forgotten. But I like it. I like that it just sort of hangs there.
Hmm.
That it just there's it's like what was he even thinking here? And really the answer is I wasn't thinking. And so I like that though because it makes it just it takes away that sense of kind of perfection. I'm not a perfectionist anyway, but like it takes away that sense of, people think this kind of music too. It's just you're working solo and you just keep going over and over and over things until you've kind of, you've kind of rinsed out the life from them. And I don't want to do that, but it's very difficult.
I can, I definitely can get that.
Voices singing harmony. You don't have to break the code if you keep around the heart. You can watch Christmas unfold if you keep around the heart. If you keep around the heart.
So between writing sermons and books and lyrics, like all forms of storytelling, what overlap do you see between the creative spaces that you occupy? Like I'm an academic that then writes fiction books, and that gets kind of weird for me. But what about the spaces that you're moving in that you see some overlap and obviously some differences as well in those creative spaces?
You mean just between like writing and then music?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. To be honest with you, it really is all just kind of one thing to me. I just like being creative, and I think whatever mode I'm in at the time, and most of the time I'm doing these things simultaneously if I'm working on a book project or music. But I think it's just more of the feeling and more of the inspiration and the motivation, those types of things. I think they work in tandem. They kind of feed off of each other. So I think it's more of just am I creating something new? I just like making things up from scratch. That would be my greatest driver, and that's what songwriting or just even writing in general does. And that's why when I have to do more like academic kind of writing, I really struggle with that a lot. And I'm getting better at it, but it's not a sweet spot for me. And people say, "Well, why is that?" And it's like, well, because I just like making things up from scratch. And when you do more academic writing, it's more research oriented, and
Yes,
you
it
can
is.
yeah. So you're trying to you're committed to writing like a truth about something,
Hmm.
or your opinion about a truth
Yeah,
about something,
sure.
rather than just I'm literally just I'm making up a story,
Yeah.
and I prefer kind of making up stories. And but I think it all works in tandem because there's a creativity, I think, foundationally that links it all together that just is inspiring to me. I think some of us we were born with a desire to make things up and to present it to the world,
Hmm.
and on any level, it doesn't matter
Yeah,
what level you're doing it on,
yeah.
it's all valid. And so I just can't get away from that. It's the thing I love doing more than anything else. It's hard to explain.
No, I definitely get that. You've been really generous with your time, so I want to start wrapping up. And normally, I'm really grateful that the album anniversary podcast is audio only because I'm not a big fan of being on camera. But in this case, I wish that listeners could see the book cover for the new book because it's so pretty. The
Ah,
album art because it's so pretty. And they're distinct, like they're all beautiful and distinct works of art.
thank you.
How, like, what's your process for creating this? You went into it a little bit with Holiday Fable, right? You saw that album cover, you thought that was interesting, you reached out to the artist. Like, what's that process of creating the visuals that go with your work, whether it is a book cover or an album cover? And are those different, I guess, between the two?
Yeah, I definitely have a lot more freedom with the music than I do with the books because I'm usually working with like, bigger publishers
Yeah.
with books. And they've been really great. So the publishers I've gotten to work with have been amazing when it comes to giving me some, they always ask me, "Hey, what are you thinking for the sleeve? And is there a direction? Can you send us some ideas?" So they've been really receptive. Again, sometimes things turn out a little more like you want them than
Yeah,
other
yeah,
times,
yeah, yeah.
and
Mhm.
it's okay. And I'm way more, I would say I'm a little more hands off with the book stuff than I am the album stuff. The album stuff usually comes, just through seeing something that I really like and then sending it to Nathan and saying, "Hey, can we do this?" Is kind of this is the feeling or the look or the vibe, and he usually can just run with that. And I think I really like a lot of that minimalist kind of Scandinavian.
Mm,
That
hmm
the albums have been really influenced by by just kind of having that sort of that holiday Scandinavian, the Christmas albums at least, kind of Scandinavian Christmas cards and wrapping paper. I just always really enjoyed that, and so they've really kind of Nathan has really kind of adopted that influence, and then. The other, just the regular albums, I've always been a huge fan of like Peter Saville, who designed, all the old, New Order and
hmm
OMD sleeve, Joy Division sleeves from back in the day.
hmm
Just that kind of that minimalist kind of way that he has about, kind of designing his art. For some reason, I've always loved that. And so that's been a massive, influence, I think, for From the Womb and then Consume Like a Moth. But it's just hugely inspirational for me. It actually is. It's what helped when I know you have Nathan will be working on the sleeve while I'm working on the music, and I'm literally in the studio, and he'll send me some samples, and it just inspires me to just kind of keep doing what I'm doing. So, like I said, kind of going back to what I said, all these things they work in tandem, and they're just kind of this snowball effect that just starts rolling, and one thing kind of bleeds into the other, and it's just hugely inspirational. So I just, yeah, I love all that. I love colors too. So I love kind of vibrant colors. And so that's been an influence with the sleeves recently as well. So
Awesome. Well, Ronnie, thank you so much for the conversation today. It's been a ton of fun and interesting.
thank you.
And thanks for taking your time to talk about all your work in these special albums.
Thank you.
Everyone, go check out Evergreen Melody, available now from Velvet Bloom Music, and Ronnie's book, In the Morning You Hear My Voice. Happy holiday season, and thanks for tuning in to the Album Anniversary Podcast.
Evergreen melody, sparkle of crimson key, into past gaiety. Evergreen melody, in seasons of doubt, you will sing these songs of old, whisper words untold, speak what sorrows bring, look to hope unseen.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Album Anniversary Podcast. I want to say thanks again to AJ for setting this up. And thanks so much to Ronnie for joining the show. Great to have you on the show, and glad to hear and super excited to hear about the new Christmas album, Evergreen Melodies. It should be available everywhere. Go check it out. Check out the new Christmas album from Ronnie Martin. I'm still on all the social media, Twitter, Instagram, Blue Sky, YouTube, Patreon, all of them. You can find me by looking for Caleb the Spy or the Album Anniversary Podcast. You should be able to find me. I can also be reached at CalebTheSpypodcasts@gmail.com. I have a spreadsheet of all the shows I plan on doing in 2026. Reach out. I can give you access to that. We can try and connect on a show. No guarantees. I got a lot of people who want to be on the show. There's already a lot of shows filled up for 2026, but I try and work in as many people as I can. Good variety on the show is always good. Please subscribe, share the podcast, leave a rating or review. It is the effective way to spread the word about podcasts. Those of us who are not famous, we're working hard to gain one listener at a time. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll talk to you soon.